Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in again for another update on the 66 Volkswagen Beetle. So as you've seen, I removed the engine, I rebuilt it, I got it back in the car, I've had it around the block a few times. It runs pretty good, but needs a little bit of tuning yet. So when I rebuilt the engine, I put it together on the tap stand here. I had the carbs on, synced, dialed in so that it ran nice on the stand, but little did I know I needed to remove the carbs off to lift the engine back up. Then I put the carbs back on and set the linkages exactly as it was, but I didn't bother syncing the carbs or dialing in the idle jets just to make sure it runs perfect. So you can notice that when it runs, it's obviously running rich and a little bit not quite as balanced as it should be. To be honest, I think I'll need to take the carbs off and downsize the jets to run it leaner. It's obviously running too rich. But until then, I'll hold it off until the fall or winter. But for now, I'll take the linkages off, set them exactly as they should be, and dial in the idle jets for best lean idle. And hopefully that's enough to get us through, running good for the summer season here, and ready for a car show cruise night this coming weekend. So stay tuned, and I'm putting together this video at the request of one of my viewers who asked how to properly tune these EMPI dual 34mm carbs for the single port Volkswagen engine. So hopefully this video helps with how to dial and tune these in. If not, or if anyone else has any input on how to best tune them, then feel free to comment below. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. All right, before we do any tuning on the carb, I want to make sure that the timing is set correctly. And as this is a 6-volt car, the timing light doesn't work on the 6-volt system, so I have a spare battery there hooked up the timing light connected to spark plug wire number 1, and we have the inductive tachometer here just to make sure we're at max RPMs, and we're checking for about 30 degrees advance on the distributor timing, and the base timing isn't too important, but it should be around, I believe, 5 to 7 degrees advance. Max advance there was about 32 degrees advance, so I'm pretty happy with that, I think. So we'll assume that's timed properly, and we'll start tearing apart the linkages and dialing the carbs from there, assuming it should run good once the carbs are dialed in. So a bit of a mistake that I made setting up these carburetors originally. I put these linkages on so they're both on the same angle this way and opposing angle that way. However, the butterflies both rotate that way and that way. Therefore, as you throttle up, it increases the angle, and as you throttle up, it decreases the angle. So that's going to open the throttle valves at a different rate than one another, which won't help with the vacuum in comparative of one another as you increase throttle. So that's going to cause some running issues there, which I need to correct. And I will do that by moving these over and over so that they're either perpendicular to the linkage or both on the same angle this way and that way, so they both open the butterflies at the exact same rate to one another. That way, when it's synced properly with the same vacuum at idle, that should follow through as you increase the throttle on both sides. So what I'm going to do now is completely remove the linkages on both sides from the throttle bodies, and I'm going to back out the idle adjustment screws so that the butterflies are entirely closed, and turn them both in at the exact same rate just to hold the butterflies open enough to give the proper idle, and then I'll set the idle adjustment screws so that they are as lean as possible but still idling properly. And then I will put the linkages back on, set them so they're identical, and double check the vacuum, and should be good. All right, so what I'm going to do here is remove the linkages on both sides and put them on the bench, and using the vernier calipers, make sure that they are set at the exact same length on both sides. And then I've loosened these off already, and I'm going to set those there at the exact same angle. And I can't put them perpendicular to this bar here, but I can get them on a couple degree angle this way, and the same on this side, pushed over enough so that's on a couple degree angle, and that should allow them to both push down on the throttle bodies at the same rate. All right, so that one there's off. I'll do the same on this side, but before I do that, I will make sure that I have it in line with where I want it. Make sure that's not pushing on the throttle at all. That's good. And I will set them both the same length as this one here. All right, so that one there is off as well. And while adjusting that, it won't matter too much. So I'm going to turn these here so they're both it's perpendicular to one another on a 90 degree, like so. All right, so now that the adjusters are both set to length and both ends perpendicular or 90 degrees to one another, we're going to back out the idle adjustment screws for the butterflies, and they're down there. We're going to back them out so the butterflies are entirely closed, and then turn those screws each in on both sides exactly the same amount, which I'm thinking about half a turn, just to get the car to idle. And then we're going to turn in the idle mixture screws until they are seated and back them out 2 full turns each. I think that's where it had ran pretty good on the stand. And we'll fire that up the car and start testing the vacuum on both sides. All right, so the idle mixture screws are fully turned in, seated, and the idle adjustment screws for the throttle butterflies are backed out. So the butterflies are fully closed. And as you can see there's a gap signaling that the screws are backed fully out. And I'll give you a view of up here. The butterflies are fully closed and seated. So right now it would not run. So what I'm going to do is turn those screws back in, both sides, until they seat against the rubber stop, and then turn them in once more, half a turn on both sides, precisely. Just open the butterflies up enough to set the proper idle. And then I will turn out the idle mixture screws 2 full turns, and I'll connect the vacuum gauges using the vacuum port there, and using the vacuum hose that goes to the distributor advance. And I will clamp off the vacuum equalization tube between the 2 carburetors and get it idling. Double check the idle adjustment on both sides, make sure we're at proper equal vacuum, and increase idle if needed. And then for lean best idle, I will turn in the mixture screws until I feel the change, and turn them back out just enough to idle where it should. All right, so I have the vapor equalization hose pinched off. There it is. I have the idle adjustment screws backed out and backed in just enough to open the butterflies a hair. It might not be quite enough, but we'll start from there. And I have the idle mixture screws there and there. Both turned out exactly 2 full turns. So we'll see how that fires up and runs. And I also have the vacuum gauges hooked up there. So we'll see how that runs, if it does. If not, I'll need to turn in the butterflies for the idle, just a hair on both sides. And then we'll keep adjusting until the idle is set properly, using the inductive tack there. And then lean out the idle both sides respectively until it's as lean as it can go and still holding an idle. As you can see there, the vacuum seems to be right on par on both sides where it should be. And I'll try turning in the adjustments to the mixture. And try right about a 1 turn out is where it liked it most. And any more than that, it was stumbling and died at half turn out. So I'll put it at 1 turn out on both sides and fire it up and see how it runs from there. All right, so idle is set just around 750 RPM. Idle mixture screws are out exactly 1 full turn on both sides. Seems to be okay there. Likes to idle nicely. Fires up at the turn of the key, and it seems responsive on both sides as I push down the throttles. So what I'll do now is I will put the linkages back on, have them loose, and tighten them down as I watch the vacuum gauges to make sure that at idle it's exactly where it should be, and a slight change from there starts changing throttle. All right, so the linkages are both on both sides. They're set to the exact same length, but the GM nuts are loose. They're both set to the exact same angle this way. I'm going to adjust them as needed to set the vacuum properly to the exact same on both left and right banks. Hard to see there, but that's one angle, the other matching angle. And let's fire it up and see how the vacuum looks and adjust as needed. All right, so before I let that run off, obviously it's pushing down. I need to shorten up these linkages. Oh yeah. Yeah, that one there was at half throttle, I think. And this side. And that side there is nicely closed. All right, and that's done. So now just disconnect the vice grips off there, disconnect the vacuum gauges, put the plug on the passenger side there, and hook up the vacuum hose for the vacuum advance on the distributor up to this carburetor, and it should be good. So just gotta wait for another day when it's sunny outside, not raining, not midnight, and take it for a little drive, make sure it runs good, and it should be ready for the first car show and cruise of the season. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. Take care.